guys. Today I will talk to you about this E70 X5. This is a 2012 X5 diesel, and there's only one engine size, an inline 6 3-liter diesel that's sold in the US for the X5 and the 5 Series. I don't think those got the 4-cylinder. I know the X5 didn't get the 4-cylinder for sure. 5 Series, I doubt it did as well. Anyways, this is a bronze metallic color. I believe it was an individual car at the time, and it looks very beautiful when cleaned up and in the sunlight. It's very, very nice. I still think this body lines are just beautiful. Honestly, I think this car looks better than the 2020 I have, the G05, and even the newer one, the LCI as well. This car has just so sleek body lines. Look at that on the arches over there and here as well. Actually, a lot of people don't know the fenders on this car, and I think the hood are some kind of plastic composite. It's some sort of like metal and plastic, or some sort of combination composite. It's not an actual, it's not aluminum or metal or anything like that. So when these go bad or get damaged, you have to replace the whole thing. So anyways, I've had this car for close to 2 years now, and I have put around probably 12,000 miles or something like that. And let me tell you, they were not trouble-free. It has not left me stranded, that's for sure. But it's got some maintenance, items. I've done a bunch of stuff to it, like shocks and stuff, but those, in my opinion, are consumables, especially when you hit a specific mileage on these cars. But overall, I've enjoyed owning this car for the time being, and let me tell you about it a little more. So this diesel requires few things extra other than filling up your diesel fuel. So it's recommended whenever you do an oil change, which is the range is 10,000 miles, you would have to fill the DEF, which is diesel exhaust fluid. I'll show you where you do that in a little bit. But let's look at the cabin itself. I think it's very sleek. It hasn't really changed over the years. Even the newer ones, sort of like the same size and whatnot. But this older generation actually kind of has a little bit better quality and like more cool features that you don't get on the newer ones anymore. Not even the M version. So this has the hi-fi sound system. You can tell here there are 2 speakers. This here, peasant blockers, as some say. This has 138,000 miles right now, and it's held up very, very beautifully. With the baby seat here, of course I put a cover under, but the leather quality is superb, really. It's very comfortable. It's got the rear heated seats and fairly spacious. I'm not a tall guy, but yeah, it's very spacious and very lit here. There's there's windows all around, and very, very nice. You got quad zone here, so temperature for passengers here, and at the front as well. And let's see what else we have here. This car has a few scratches, unfortunately, but this car has comfort seats as well, which are a must in any BMW. You should not buy a BMW with the basic seats. I cannot stand it, but nonetheless, these are the best part. Really very comfortable. This is big enough. I feel like the newer ones sort of like shrunk down a little bit, so you feel like the bottom is not long enough, this side here. And the older cars, the older BMWs, this generation here and older, seats were more generous. So what they did in the newer ones, they shrunk the seats a little bit, so you feel like you have more room inside the car, even though this outside is bigger, but it's very strange. Leather is great condition, heated seats, dual climate zone up here. You can see here the glove box is a little interesting, right? There's no glove box here, so a lot of people think it has no glove box, but it does. There's a button for it here, and it opens up. How cool is that? Closes. Also, this is a sort of, it doesn't rattle or anything like that, but it maybe in the future it would. I'm not really sure. Or maybe if the car sat in the heat more, depends on the ownership, how the life of the car. Some cars would have a cracked wood here and there, but it's been taken care of very, very, very well. I like it a lot. You can tell here it's an updated, the upgraded hi-fi sound system. The regular one would be like, you don't see the tweeter. And it's got the side steps. I love these things. Some people don't like them. On the E70, they are actually big enough and very usable. I use them all the time to climb out of the car, and even to get in, you just put your foot and climb in. First few times might hit your head, but you get used to it. After that, it's pretty cool. Versus the newer ones are very narrow and basically almost unusable. Suspension, I think I mentioned I had to replace the 4 shocks on this car, and they're not very expensive. You can see there's a small dent here, but the look of this car is so much better than the newer ones, to be honest with you. And it's got some cool thing here, like you have dual pane sunroof, and when you open it up, like when you do the tilt, this goes up and this goes up too. That's pretty cool. You don't get that in newer cars. You also, it's worth mentioning, see this is an auto dimming mirror, and so is the middle one, and so is that one. So in your BMWs, you don't get auto dimming mirror on that side anymore. Not even the X5M, not even the M5. Both of the 2020 I have, the X5 doesn't have it, even though it's a $100,000 car. And the M5, the F90, does not have auto dimming mirror on that side. What a shame. I used to love a Mercedes because they had like a specific package for that. But now BMW doesn't even offer an auto dimming mirror on that side. Hopefully their newer cars are different. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll find out. Driver's side held up very, very nicely. And you got some buttons here. Head-up display. Head-up display is very basic. It just displays your speed and displays your cruise control speed as well. Of course, you get some creaks at this age now with BMW plastics. This is worn out a little bit. That's the parking sensor, the surround camera. So newer X5s would have the dual fan, similar to the 5 Series. 5 Series would have like a fan control for the passenger and a fan speed control for the driver. So essentially it would have 2 fans, 2 blowers. This one has just a single blower for both, but dual temperatures, which is nice. Heated seats, but ventilated seats was an option. This car does not have. And that's pretty much the interior in a nutshell. The cup holders are big. This is a weak spot. These would fail, so you'd have to replace this whole piece. And now that these cars are not very easy found on the road, you can still find in the junkyard, I guess, but it's a bit of a hassle to replace this whole thing. nonetheless, sports steering, heated steering wheel. Let's go ahead and start the vehicle. It's kind of loud. $137,000 miles. The mileage is pretty good actually. I kind of have a heavy foot a little bit, but you can see I have over 300 miles on a little over half a tank. Honestly, like, I drive it really rough, but if you drive it normal, like, I guess, I don't know, because I'm used to the other two cars, and the diesel is not very fast car. It got a lot of torque, maybe like I think 450 or somewhere around that, but it doesn't have a lot of horsepower. I think maybe 260 or something like that. So it's not a fast car, and especially when you're up to speed on highway speeds. It's good, but it's like, it's not fast, you know. So you end up, I don't know, at least I do end up putting my foot down quite a lot. But on the highway, this thing gets a lot of miles actually, easily over 600 miles to the tank. I'm getting 23. It was 27 earlier, but yeah, it's sort of a, depends on the driver, let's say. But nonetheless, you can easily get I think 28, 29 miles per gallon combined, and probably 35 on the highway, if not more. It's pretty good. The cabin is kind of loud for the diesel. I mean, the engine is louder than a Mercedes for sure. I think Mercedes does a better job in terms of insulation and stuff. But yeah, this is quite loud when you're driving around, cruising on the highway. It's a bit loud. But if you close this here, this cover is not like the newer cars. You can see it's actually thick and reduces the noise quite a bit. So let me show you. It's cool here. See, when you tilt, both of them open. That's pretty cool. Newer ones doesn't do that, unfortunately. And you can see when you close it, it sort of like goes down a little bit and goes up. That's pretty cool. But anyways, let me see what else here. It's got the comfort access, so you don't have to put the key in here. It just stays in your pocket. And let's look under the hood quickly. I'm gonna turn it off because there's gonna be a lot of racket going on. You have to click twice, by the way, to shut it off. Otherwise, it stays on for quite a bit of time. It might drain your battery. If you ever wondered, your battery doesn't gets drained more often than it should. That could be one thing. You can immediately tell that the engine cover looks different than the i35, which is the inline 6 gas version. This thing has a lot of crap for the emission system. There is an EGR here, I think. There's an SCR somewhere. I don't know what it stands for, I forgot. And there's a bunch of crap for the diesel emissions. There's a DPF somewhere around here. That's the turbo here. There's your intake, and the air filter is here. Yeah, a lot of people, there's a term called pothole, delete. So pothole, it took me a while to understand. Pothole is like you run on a pothole and the exhaust emission system falls out of That's interesting. So a lot of people remove the DPF, the diesel particulate filter, the EGR and SCR and everything emission related. You can just delete it, you remove it, and get plates to cover up the ports, everything, and then you replace the DPF with a downpipe, and this car becomes a monster. You have to add a tune as well, so that the software sort of accounts for the change, and you'd easily hit like 800 torque and increase your horsepower, but the car sounds epic and pulls really, really hard. I have not tried one, but unfortunately I do not like to modify cars, so I am a stock guy, unfortunately for some. But nonetheless, here's the DEF, diesel exhaust fluid port. There's one here. You just twist this cap and fill it up. You have to remove this, it's easy to remove. So there is the primary tank, I think is here, and it's a smaller tank. They call it the active tank. And then there is another tank, this one here. I think this is the bigger tank, and it's sort of like there is a pump that goes in between. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but somehow one tank feeds the other. And this should last you the whole interval between your oil changes. So every time you change the oil, you should top it off. So people ask, okay, what diesel exhaust fluid should you use? Well, it does not matter really. You don't have to use BMW DF. I actually use one from Walmart. If I can find it, must be. Actually, I returned it because it was an extra. They have one, the blue def, and then there is a blue def ultimate or something like that. It's a little more expensive than the basic blue def. And I did some research on it. I recently started using it actually. And it takes time for the effects to happen, you know, because the diesel and the exhaust carbon buildup and all that shit, it takes time for it to actually start building less and things like that, and you get better MPG, and depends on the condition of the engine. But I found a few guys online that they did some testing, and they found that one reduced the soot, so which is good, because less soot helps keeps your DPF, diesel particulate filter, to be free flowing for longer, so you don't get clogged up. And if you get clogged up, then you run in, it's an expensive part, you have to replace it, blah blah blah. So a lot of people just delete that stuff, and honestly I would consider that too, but like I said, I'm not interested in that. And you can see this individual color here, sparkling bronze metallic. So anyways, this is basically in a nutshell. You can see here it's got a camera and it has a lane keep assist, but in some other countries this would actually read the speed limit on the road and display it on the head-up display. Just not in the US. I think it's not maybe the X5M does, I'm not really sure. But anyways, this is a overall of this car. We can go for a ride and see how it sounds from inside. Talk a little more about it. All right, so let's talk about this generation X5 here in terms of driving. So this is a lot different than the newer X5s. This car feels a little more connected to the road, you know. It feels heavy for some reason, even though it's not. It's probably it's around the same weight, if not less than the newer generation. It feels so heavy, and I think it has to do with the steering. The steering is so heavy on this car. You need some time to get used to it. It's a lot heavier. It almost feels like there is no power steering compared to the newer ones. The 2020 I have, the steering wheel is so soft, and because it has the air ride, it's so wallowy, and it's so plush, you know. It wobbles around,
and you can't really go fast in it because it's got limits, right? The air suspension sort of like starts bouncing around, and you feel like, okay, you're gonna crash, and that's sort of not the feel you want to have when you're driving around. So anyways, I know there are the newer X5, some of them don't have the air ride, but a lot of people are opting for the air ride because of the comfort. But yeah, you lose this agility driver feeling, sort of like more control type of thing. So yeah, this feels a little stiffer. I can feel the road more. The steering wheel, I can feel more road feedback in it, and it sort of like reminds me with the older X5. This is an old one, but even the older ones, this is like sort of like this generation is where things started going away. So I really enjoy driving this vehicle compared to the 2020. It's such a better driver, honestly. But it's just not very strong. Probably I should have opted for an X5M or something. I don't know. But anyways, it's got a lot of torque. It moves. It's loud. So this is 70 miles per hour. It is. It's a bit loud compared to newer ones, or even like the petrol version of this car. It's definitely louder. But yeah, you get a lot more torque right out of the bat. You get a lot more miles per gallon. It tows much easier than the other one, as far as I know. The transmission is this one is a 6-speed. Versus I think the petrol maybe received the 8-speed. I'm not 100% sure, but there is some difference in the new. I know the F15 received the 8-speed ZF, and there is a characteristic in this car, like when it's cold, when you first turn it on, and if you just drive off and the ambient temperature is cold, the transmission sort of like hard shifts between first and second and third. And it hangs a little bit. It sort of like revs a little more, hangs with the gear, and that's completely normal. Some people might think there's something wrong with the transmission or something like that, but it's not. As soon as it warms up, it's smooth, no problems. But yeah, you hear creaks. They're from the rear deck, the trunk. Got the clamshell thing, and you know, as a car gets older, things need to be adjusted. You have to adjust the stopper and things like that. But yeah, definitely, this car is more engaging than the newer one. The newer one is just comfortable, cruises around, comfortable. I like the technology mostly in the newer one. So I installed an Apple CarPlay module in this car that supports Apple and Android. And it's definitely helped bringing back, shed some years, the age of this car. But it's just the technology of the newer ones. It's really what I really like. Locking, unlocking the car from the app, remote start from the app. It's so much. It's very convenient, and it's so much better. It integrates really well overall with your phone. It's got nice amenities that this one doesn't have, you know, like better sound system. The ambient lighting is very nice. That's a problem when you get a newer car. You sort of get used to the newer stuff. That's what happens. You know, the M5 has ambient lighting. It's cool, blah blah blah. Plus, it's got a ton of power. But the 2020 X5. Definitely falls into that category in terms of like technology and feel on the inside, and comfortable for the family and stuff like that. But otherwise, love to keep this car, really do. I put it for sale because I don't need two X5s in the garage. That's just madness. And if you're not going to delete this car, honestly, it's just not worth having just another if you already have an X5, why would you have another one? There's no point. But if I was to delete it and do all those diesel stuff that people do, I would definitely keep it, because this can become a monster sleeper, like literally legit sleeper. Anyways, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I've gathered a lot of knowledge the past couple of years while owning this car. It's my first diesel, first BMW diesel I've ever owned, and I always wanted one, just for the heck of it. I always wanted one, and so I got one, and I really enjoyed it. It's very nice. I drove it thousands of miles. I drove it to other states, no problems. It just goes, and it really is incredible. I hear a lot of people having issues with it online, but I don't know. If you keep up the maintenance, you'll be fine. You don't have to do preventative maintenance. That's some people do. They end up spending a lot of money on things that haven't broken yet. Why? But suspension, things like that, you can always check and replace as needed. You know, I felt the shocks. The ride was horrible, especially the bounce. Like it would dip, but not really bounce back correctly. So you know, the shock usually when that happens, the shock can be compressed easily, but not pull out quickly. And those are usually like the valves inside is destroyed, or something broken inside the valves. So replace those. The ride is beautiful. But I didn't replace any control arms because everything looked fine and felt fine. You know? But now I'm feeling okay. I think the thrust arms are starting to go bad, because you can see the wear on the tires is not very uneven. So that's a way to tell that your thrust arms are going out. So replace those, you know. But some people just go and just replace everything, spends thousands of dollars, and then end up selling it or regret buying it. So I also want to add, in terms of maintenance, I had to replace the thermostat, which is a big pain in the butt if your car is stock, because all this diesel emission stuff is sitting in the way. So you end up have to move the EGR, and you have to remove the fan as well, and like such a pain in the butt, you know, if you're not deleted. But yeah, that's the thing. So why did I have to replace it? So what happens in this diesel, the thermostat ends up getting stuck open, and the diesel engine needs heat to run efficiently. The hotter it is, the better for it to burn fuel. And as you know, diesel is not very flammable, so it needs heat. It needs a lot of heat and pressure. So even if you have the pressure, the compression and everything's good, but you still need enough heat for it to burn efficiently. So what happens is you start losing MPGs. Suddenly your MPGs start dropping when the winter comes. And some people, if the winter is really bad, I mean, here in Austin it's not that really big of a deal, but some people might not even get enough heat in the cabin. So the thermostat gets stuck open and it never closes, allowing the engine to reach up to temperature before the coolant flow, you know, and exchange between the radiator and the engine. And so you end up with a inefficiency, and the engine starts dropping more fuel thinking it's cold. The ECU will just dumping more fuel thinking it's cold, and what happens is you start getting more soot, and that soot ends up clocking your DPF faster, blah blah blah. But it's got some sensors, blah blah blah, going on. So I got a check engine light, and I checked it out, and it says EGR inefficiency. So that's usually and something about thermostat I forgot. Two codes. I forgot what they were. But you look it up, and it's everything tells you it's the thermostat. So evidently, I mean, I took the thermostat out, the old one, and it was actually stuck open. It wasn't extended all the way. It was short, you know. So it was open, and the coolant just keep flowing. And that happened as soon as the temperatures started dropping, and driving it in at night caused the check engine light to come on. Because during the day, I was checking the temperature of the coolant, and it was sort of like low 80s, mid 80s, and it's okay, but ideally it should be around 90. The thermostat is 90, 89, I think. But when you check the temperature in the cluster, it'll show you around between 90 to 93 regular basis, and that's a good temperature that you should be around for your engine to run efficiently. So as soon as you replace the thermostat, change the reset the computer, blah blah, check my MPG, immediately bounced plus 10. So I was like, wow, that's insane. 10 miles per gallon extra. And of course I was driving normally. As soon as I put my foot down, that reduced to like 6, you know. So it's still good. It's still better, but at least I know the engine is running a really good condition. And the engine light came on again, and it goes off on its own. So I started reading around, and consensus seems like it needs a few hundred miles for it to go back to normal operation. So it takes some time. So just ignore it if that happens to you. You can reset the light, or you can just ignore it. It'll go away, hopefully. But yeah, that was one interesting thing about this engine. You make sure you're always running at good temperature. Anyways, hope you find this video helpful. Feel free to comment, ask me questions. I'll try to answer and help you. Alrighty, catch you in the next one. See you later.